Hey guys, what is up? It's Raul here coming to you today with something RxC. Today we're going to go through is going to be volume for CrossFit. So what I want to outline here is going to be different principles that we've written on this whiteboard that could maybe be useful to a coach or somebody who's an athlete who's starting out in the sport of fitness. Now, what I want you to think about is going to be two different concepts to think about when you're looking at an overall program that you're following or a program that you're creating to follow. So the first thing that I want you to think about is going to be movement selection. So we've broken down our movement selection into three different categories. We have our squats, we have our pushes, and we have our pulls. Now, what I want you to think about is in each one of these groups, what movement selection are you choosing? So let's look at our squats, for example. We can have a bodyweight squat like an air squat. We can have weighted squats, which would be things like a squat clean, a back squat, a front squat, an overhead squat, any variation of anything with weight. It could be a goblet squat, a dumbbell squat. And then we have single leg squats, things like step-ups, lunges, and pistols. All right, so we have a movement selection that we can choose from. The same thing can be said for pushes. We have different variations of push-ups, whether it be regular push-ups, handstand push-ups. We have presses, which would be strict presses, push presses. We have different variations of jerks, and we have different variations of throws, all right, which would be things like a wall ball. And then we look at our pulling, all right? Now when we think about pulling, we have to think about things like pull-ups, rings, any variation of gymnastics movements with the rings, whether it be muscle ups. We look at toaster bar, which you may not think of as a pulling motion, but you're requiring your lats to be used quite a lot during the toter bar. And then we have things like hinging motions like deadlifts, in which I would put in the same category as things like kettlebell swings and snatches. So you look at all your pulls, all right? Now from here, we have three different sections that we can look at when it comes to rep schemes, all right? Now, as a beginner, you have to think about how many reps am I doing of a movement within a week? And am I going to overload a certain muscle group or certain movement pattern, all right? So we've divided it into three different groups. For beginners, you're looking at doing 50 or less reps of a movement pattern within a week, all right? So if you think about pull-ups, if you're overdoing more than 50 pull-ups in a week at the beginning, you might be doing too much for what your body is ready to do. If you look at an intermediate grade person, somebody who's maybe an athlete and been an athlete for a year or two, maybe three, you'd be looking at 50 to 100 reps per week of a movement, all right? That way you're getting better at the movement, you're adapting the stimulus, and you're getting more progress continuously, all right? If you don't increase your volume of repetitions over a period of time, then one could argue that you're not going to increase your level of fitness or your level of adaptation to that certain movement. So that's something to really think about. And then you look at advanced athletes, in which case you might want to go between 150 reps, if not more, of a movement pattern, all right? Now there's a lot of factors that we're not going to discuss in this video, like making movement more challenging, strict or keeping variations. This is just a general broad outline for you to think about of how to program and how many reps to be sticking to, depending on what sort of person you're programming for. All right, now the next thing that we can think about is going to be your load. How much load are you putting through a person? Are you putting yourself through when you're doing a program? So if you think about a classic CrossFit workout like Diane, which is 21, 15, 9 deadlifts and handstand push-ups, which are normally prescribed at 225 for men and 155 for women, what we have there is basically, and for kilos, that's 100 kilos and 70 kilos, what we have there is a total load. So from my calculations before, 21 reps divided by 45 reps times 100 kilos is a total lifted volume of 4,500 kilos. Now, if we did Diane twice in a week, or if we did two sets of workouts that have that sort of volume, we'd be approaching close to that 10,000 kilogram mark, which would be fine. You could do something like, you could do Diane and Elizabeth in 1 week, you could do maybe Grace, and you'd still be around that sort of 10,000 kilogram mark within 1 week. Now, for advanced athletes doing double sessions and doing strength components as well as metcons, you want to be looking at upping the total load lifted over time. That's how you improve your strength. And you'd be looking at something around 20,000 kilograms per week, all right? All of these metrics are taken week by week, all right? And then if we look at an advanced lifter, you might be looking at upwards of 30,000 kilograms lifted, give or take, all right? Now, this, the term advanced is very relative to different athletes of different sports. Could be a powerlifter, could be a weightlifter, could be somebody who does CrossFit and powerlifting, somebody who does CrossFit and weightlifting, different variations of this. But these are just basically three different things that you want to think about when you're programming for someone, all right? Making sure that you don't give a new beginner an advanced type load, and making sure you don't give an advanced person a beginner type volume when it comes to rep schemes, all right? Now, This piece here doesn't take into account the concept of intensity, which is going to be something that we're going to be discussing in a separate video. But it is a really good place to start with when it comes to think about how you program and why you program for different people. Hope you found this video enjoyable, guys. Take care.